Well, it's time to shelve the falsehood, fallacy, and fantasy and have an honest discussion here about how we're going to address the very real threat of climate change. Mr. President, it is time to wake up. I yield the floor, and I'll note the absence of a quorum.
Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Alexander.
Mr. President.
Senator from Rhode Island.
Mr. President, may I ask the quorum call be vitiated?
Without objection.
May I ask unanimous consent that the Senate proceed to a period of morning business with senators permitted to speak for up to 10 minutes each?
Without objection.
May I ask unanimous consent that the Judiciary Committee be discharged from further consideration of Senate Resolution 183 and the Senate proceed to its consideration?
Clerk will report.
Senate Resolution 183, commemorating the relaunching of the 172-year-old Charles W. Morgan by Mystic Seaport, the Museum of America and the Sea.
Is there objection? Without objection, the committee is discharged. The Senate will proceed to the measure.
I ask unanimous consent that the resolution be agreed to, the preamble be agreed to, and the motion to reconsider be laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate.
Without objection.
Mr. President, I understand that there are 3 bills at the desk, and I ask for their first reading en bloc.
Senators, correct? Clerk will read the title of the bills for the first time.
S-1350, a bill to prohibit the Secretary of the Treasury from enforcing the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act and the Health Care and Education Reconciliation Act of 2010. S-1316, a bill to repeal the provisions of the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, providing for the Independent Payment Advisory Board. H.R. 1911, an act to amend the Higher Education Act of 1965 to establish interest rates for new loans made on or after July 1st, 2013, and so forth, and for other purposes.
I now ask for a second reading en bloc, and I object to my own request en bloc.
Objection having been heard, the bills will be read for a second time on the next legislative day.
I ask unanimous consent that when the Senate completes its business today, it adjourn until 9:30 a.m. on Thursday, July 18th, 2013, that following the prayer and pledge, the morning hour be deemed expired, the Journal of Proceedings be approved to date, and the time for the 2 leaders be reserved for their use later in the day, and that the Majority Leader be recognized, and that following the remarks of the 2 leaders, the Senate be in a period of morning business for 1 hour, with senators permitted to speak therein for up to 10 minutes each, with the time equally divided and controlled between the 2 leaders or their designees, with the first half controlled by the majority and the second half controlled by the Republicans. And that following morning business, the Senate resume executive session to consider calendar number 99, the nomination of Thomas Perez to be Secretary of Labor post-cloture. Further, that all time during adjournment, morning business, legislative session, and recess count post-cloture on the Perez nomination.
Without objection.
I am informed by the leader that we hope to confirm both the Perez and McCarthy nominations on Thursday. And if there is no further business to come before the Senate, I ask that it adjourn under the previous order.
The Senate stands adjourned until 9:30 a.m. tomorrow.
So that wraps up today's work in the U.S. Senate. A day after finding common ground regarding executive nominations and filibuster rules, lawmakers got back to work on some of President Obama's appointments. They confirmed Fred Hochberg to continue as the head of the Export-Import Bank and voted to move forward with the nomination of Thomas Perez to become the next Labor Secretary. However, several Republican senators expressed reservations with Mr. Perez. Next,